What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling with Freddie. I appreciate you guys hanging with us for this long. No guests today. It's story time. Get ready. Welcome to the Federation, and WWF starts right now.
Now, stepping up to the mic, the host of Wrestling with Freddie, Freddie Prinze Jr.
Today's episode is going to be a little different. I've spoken a lot about the things I've been proud of, the things I thought I did well, but we haven't spoken about any of the mistakes. We haven't spoken about the learning process and the hard lessons and things that I wish I could have back. So today's episode is all about that. Today, we're going to focus on one wrestler in particular, and that's the former Divas champion, Michelle McCool, a situation that I had with her that I just really wish I could have taken the whole thing back. But I had been at the company about 4 months. And in that amount of time, I had written a few promos that the company really liked. I started getting assignments that were larger than just, hey, we need you to do a promo for Wrestler X on Tuesday night, which was our SmackDown episodes when we would record them. And so I got tasked by Stephanie McMahon to write a Divas story. They called it the Divas title, and the female wrestlers were Divas then, which I always thought was so stupid. So this was the story I was writing. And she said, we're signing Awesome Kong, which was this female wrestler named Kia Stevens. And to see her is to just be in Awesome Kong. I mean, she's my height and she's huge. And when she wrestled in TNA, she had an amazing story with Gail Kim, it was, where they would just throw these matches together. Gail could spin around and was small and light, and Awesome Kong, Kia Stevens, could just be a tree, and it was like watching a tire swing around her. It was really cool. So we had signed her, and we had another wrestler named Beth Phoenix. Beth Phoenix actually wrestled in high school on the boys' team. She lifted weights. She is buff, jacked. Not like shredded, like a Bruce Lee kind of shred, like a buff woman who could go in there and pick up anybody and smash them. So those two were the ones I was assigned to create a WrestleMania match for. This was all the way back in 2007. Now, this wasn't a request from Vince or from Kevin Dunn. This was a request from Stephanie McMahon, who was working on the women's division and making it mean something all the way back then with incredibly limited success. But you can look at where it is now, and she's had her thumbprint on each and every one of those steps to the top, which is where I feel they're at right now. So my WrestleMania card was going to be Awesome Kong, who they hadn't named Karma yet, which was what they tried to debut her as before she mysteriously left the company. And the whole thing went to pot. It was Beth Phoenix as the babyface, and it was Awesome Kong as the heel. So how do you bring this woman in? Well, the way they brought her in, or tried to, were these vignettes where you would just see this like Barbie doll and the head get ripped off. And the philosophy behind it was, here comes this monster who they were going to call Karma, hate all the pretty girls and want to destroy all the pretty girls because Barbie doesn't represent what a real woman is. It's a fraud. And all these women have been deceived. And they took pieces from my story when they actually did their vignettes, but I never had any of the Barbie doll stuff in there. This was more Kia could talk. So I thought it would be good to allow her to tell her story. I like when heels tell their story more than when baby faces do. I feel like baby faces, someone else should tell their story. Otherwise, they're talking about how great they are. But a heel can give you their philosophy, and you can hate them for it, or you can get behind it. And in this case, I thought we could get a little bit of both. So you have this woman who wants to destroy all these perfect Barbie dolls. And these are the girls like the Kelly Kellys that they had there, whose real name is Barbie. Like, her real name is Barbie, born Barbie. They called her Babs, I think was her nickname. She's super cool. This was going to be like her first victim was Kelly Kelly. And as she started to come through and destroy all of the girls that weren't really going to compete for the championship, these could be squash matches for her, we'd be holding back the first challenge that she was really going to have. which was Natalya Neidhart. And Natty was going to give it a good go, but Natty would eventually lose to her as well, which brings us to Gail Kim, who had the history with her in TNA, and the company had also just signed. And this was going to be the first test that our Awesome Kong had. And Gail would get some serious offense off, but eventually would fall. And that's when Kong would call out for Michelle McCool, the Divas champion. I want to say women's champion. That's what she was. She would call her out and say, I'm coming for that title. I'm writing this story up. And all I've been told is, hey, write me this WrestleMania story. And it's not just for Kia and Beth. It's, I want you to include all of our divas in there. So that's kind of why you get the long backstory. So I write this up and I give it to Steph, and she really likes it. And Freebird really likes it. And it goes all the way to the top. It goes to Vince, and it's approved, but not the WrestleMania match is not guaranteed. That's the goal, right? So I have Michelle losing the Divas Championship at the Royal Rumble, which happens a couple months before WrestleMania. And I have her losing with dignity, and I have her giving us a real match. I said this at the beginning of the podcast. I had been in the company maybe 4 months. I didn't realize the belt meant so much to so many different people. It didn't mean that much to others. If they had the Intercontinental title belt, they weren't really in on when they were going to lose it or not. It was the company that decided that. Same with the United States title. Same with the tag team titles. And I'm green as all hell. I'm a complete rookie. I have no idea the politics of it. Michelle never came to the promo class, so I didn't really know Michelle at all. And I go to work. We're on the road and somewhere in the arena, backstage. And Michelle says, Stephanie said you wanted to talk to me about the women's storyline. And we sit down at a cafeteria table. That's where we were, where everybody's eating. So we're off to the side, and I start pitching it to her, what it was going to be, it wasn't right on my part. I get to the Royal Rumble, and I explain to her that she'll be, the suggestion is that she drops the title at the Royal Rumble. And then I keep telling the story of where it finishes, because she deserves to know the whole story. And it gets all the way to WrestleMania, which would be Beth and Kia. And her face just goes pale. All the color just drops literally right out of her skin. And right away, I know I've done something terrible. I just don't know what it is yet, because this is hindsight, right? I was in the moment. So I look, I go, what's wrong? And her eyes well up. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And she said, I didn't think I'd be losing the belt before WrestleMania. And I didn't understand how much that title meant to her, because the only other sort of interaction I had was on the men's side with the IC and the US belts, which got traded quite frequently, although not when it was on MVP. So I didn't think it was a big deal. I said, yeah, I was asked to make Kia Stevens and Beth Phoenix for WrestleMania. And this was the best way I thought we could get there. Is there a problem? She's not here to give her side of the story, so I'm not going to say all the stuff that she said, but she was upset. In hindsight, rightfully so. Let me kind of paint a bit of a picture of the women's division back then. They did not have anywhere near the respect that they have today. And I mean that in every sense of the word. They weren't treated fairly. Their matches were not treated fairly. Their characters were not treated fairly. Nothing about it, oh, well, hey, life's not fair. No, it was beyond that. It was simply, there was no opportunity, period. I never forget about the Mullahs or the Lita and Trish generation. Like they all unlocked the door for these next generations. But Michelle fell in this void in between Lita and Trish and in between the Bella Revolution that happened, where there was just nothing there. And everything that was written for her and everyone else, at least when I was there on the women's side, was just a brick wall, constantly running into a brick wall, planning matches that were going to get cut, matches that were not promised, but promised to them, hey, you're going to have 10 minutes at the pay-per-view. And then it would get cut down to 5 minutes. And then after the production meeting, it was just the dark match that didn't even make it to the pay-per-view. So they were struggling. Michelle was getting 5 minutes to tell a story in the ring. That's with her entrance, that was 1 minute, and her opponent's entrance, that was 1 minute. So now they have 3 minutes to have a wrestling match. 3 minutes. That's crazy. And she was good. She was somebody who constantly tried to bring reality to her matches. She tried to bring in real MMA with heel hooks and jiu-jitsu submissions. She had a passion for that, as did her husband, The Undertaker. So she was constantly battling in a time where the company just didn't blink. They just didn't blink when it came to the women's division. So here I am with the champion, and she's crying because of me, because I didn't talk to her first to say, hey, we're thinking about taking the title off of you at the Royal Rumble so that we can get this other match. God, I mean, that just sounds horrible even saying it now. So I screwed up. I should have, before I got the story approved, I probably should have shown it to her. Although when you hear the end of the story, it probably would have gotten killed even sooner. I don't know what the right move was here, but I know that I screwed up. And she deserved better than that. She's probably the most underserved champion, at least women's champion, the company's had, as far as resources available and resources used. I don't know what to do. And while I'm talking to her, I work out a way, story-wise, with her to turn WrestleMania into a triple threat between Beth Phoenix, Kia Stevens, Awesome Kong, Karma, choose your favorite, and Beth Phoenix. I haven't even gotten this match approved by Freebird or anyone, but I'm just trying to help, right? Or not backpedal. I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to front pedal. I take it back to Michael, and the Bellas. You got to remember, we're just debuting. Side quest. I just did this documentary for A&E about the Bellas and their debut and sort of their contribution to the business. And I don't know who all they had on there. Hopefully they got Finley, because he was sort of the champion for all the women wrestlers back then. And when they were called up, I mean, this was the guy that was trying to let them do the same techniques and moves that the men do every single production meeting. Hopefully they get Freebird on there, because he was the one that ran into the room when we were about to lose him, because Brie Bella called John Laurinaitis and was like, look, our contracts are up. You put us on TV or we're gone. And John Laurinaitis calls Freebird and is like, you got to find a way to get the twins on television right now. And Freebird runs in the writer's room and he's like, we got twins. We got to get them on TV. Doop, doop, doop. And all the writers are like, what? We're not even, am I allowed to watch the FCW tapes? You said I wasn't. Like, everybody was so confused. And it was all because of Brie and Nikki. But Brie is like behind the scenes jaws of the two of them, right? Like, whatever the killer whale one was, Orca, that's Nikki, because she's more hardcore, like in the ring, but in life, Brie's like, nah, dude, I will cut you. So that's why they accomplished all they accomplished. But before the Bellas and before the women were getting commercial breaks and 10, 15, 20-minute, oh, I'm sorry, here's an Iron Woman match for you between, I think it was Sasha Banks and Bayley. Like, that's sick. That all happens because the Bellas had a reality show called Total Divas and Total Bellas, and it was getting higher ratings than Monday Night Raw. So they started bringing their storylines or creating storylines on their reality show and allowing those to motivate the matches, which was such a sick next level business move. Brie Bella, thank you very much. But before they existed, Michelle McCool was having to hold down this fort. It was all on her shoulders. And here comes this jerk writer from LA who doesn't know her at all and has been there not even half a year, and he's going to take it all away at the Royal Rumble. And there's going to be a women's WrestleMania match, and she's not going to be in it when she's been holding the fort for this not even PG brand that she's been forced to hold. It was borderline G rating, the storylines that she was doing. She had to put up with a lot. And I think, I'm just thinking out loud now, but I think maybe that might not have been the biggest slap in the face, but it was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Or maybe it was just a tremendous slap. And I was an idiot. I mean, that's how I feel now looking back at it. There's an aftermath. I talked to Beth, and she is gung-ho as all hell. I mean, it's the storyline of storylines. We had two versions. One where she overcomes all these odds, all these obstacles, and she gets Kia Stevens up in the glam slam. And we talked, can you get her up? Can you get her up? And she's like, oh, yeah, I can get her up. Don't worry. And she could deadlift 1,000,000 pounds. So that wasn't an issue. And the other was Kia needed to win. And we were going to have a heel champion. And she was going to destroy the Divas championship and turn it into the women's championship, which is what she wanted to do, which then would obviously turn her babyface. Beth is super gung-ho for it. Kia's all in. I even had them do a promo like off of each other, which was going to be a part of the story, which I think I touched on in another episode, where Kia's just circling Beth, just like a lion about to play with its food. But instead of trying to kill it, it tries to covet the gazelle, so to speak, Beth being the figurative gazelle. So instead of saying, I'm going to destroy you, she says, no. I want you to join me because you're just like me. You're not these little, Barbie doll bar. And this was all her freestyling. I didn't even write this. This was just, let me give props. Like Kia just off the dome was like, yo, I got this. And she's just walking this circle. She's like, I want you to join me. All I said was trick her. That's all. That was the only note that I gave her. And she starts going in on how beautiful Beth is. And it's not sexual, but it could be borderline sexual, right? But it's more just impressed, and you're going to shower them with compliments so they know you're not their enemy, even though you're really just going to stab them in the back. And she walked around her 3 times, nice and slow. I mean, it was like a Shakespearean play. And this is in front of all her peers. Like all the other wrestlers are sitting in there. Miz is in there. I think he had this guy named Alex something was his like protege coming up from NXT. I mean, everyone was in there. We were like 25, 30 deep at that point. And she's just no fear. This was her. Oh, by the way, her very first promo class, Kia's. Like oh, hi, nice to meet you. Don't worry, baby, I got this. And I'm like, oh, okay, I just got stiff arm right on. And she killed it. And she protects Beth in that moment because Beth wasn't the strongest on the mic. So Beth is in this segment that would get over huge, at least in my mind would. And all she's having to do is look strong and be the baby face. Hell no. And then get her at the very end with like, yo, like whatever her line would sound good coming out of her mouth, whether it's that's not going to happen or I'll never join you or, or just a punch in the face, maybe Batista style. You never know. So we had all this and I'm feeling good, man. And I talked to her about a triple threat and Beth's like, yeah, the more the merrier. She just wants everyone to get paid. Right. So she's like, yeah, make it an 8-woman match. Everybody can get their check. And Kia's down. Like she's ready to go. She's going to probably be the champion. So we shoot that episode that night. That's SmackDown. And I get to work. Wednesday was our travel day back. I get to work on the travel day, which is always lovely. So we land in White Plains. I go into the Stanford office and I'm about an hour into my day. I'm trying to like sneak a promo off to Brian Kendrick so he can kind of get a head start on it. And this guy, Ezekiel Jackson, they called him. His real name is Ricklin. Michael goes, Freddie, let me talk to you. All right. I go into his office. He shows me this. He goes, he says, you probably got some crazy fans, right? I said, yeah, sure. I've had my fair share. He goes, let me fucking show you something. He opens the drawer. He goes, look at this shit I got. And he holds up a picture and it's this big leg with a tattoo of him on the leg. And I go, what, man, what are you showing me? He goes, that's me. I go, well, no, but did you get that tattoo? He goes, fuck no, that's just on some crazy fucker. And I die laughing, right? And so I'm disarmed now. And he crosses his arms and leans over the desk. The dude is a lifelong pro wrestler. He's not management, right? But he's trying to be a manager. After about 6 months, he and I were just cool. Like he would go, Freddie, that sucked, or Freddie, that was good. And it was just real shorthand with us at that point. But this was when he was still trying to be super professional. And he crossed his hands and he goes, Freddie, there's a problem with your Divas storyline, and we need to talk about it. I said, what's the problem? He goes, it's gone. I said, what do you mean it's gone, man? And he goes, it's gone. I said, what happened? He goes, well, Michelle said that you and her talked and she didn't really like the story, so it's gone. I said, was I supposed, this is when I first say, was I supposed to ask her like all this? He goes, Freddie, she talked to Undertaker. Undertaker talked to Vince. The story's gone. Now probably the color in my face dropped, right? I don't know. I wasn't looking at myself. But this had never really happened to me before. Like it wasn't getting chastised, but it was like, A, your idea's gone. B, you screwed up so bad that this person wasn't comfortable telling you that this wasn't going to happen. They went and spoke to someone else to make sure this wasn't going to happen. Like she didn't feel comfortable being open and honest with me in that moment or down that road. And again, in hindsight, yeah, I get it. She had to do that. She had to protect the foundation that she had laid down, regardless of what you think of that championship run. That's not on her. She doesn't get to pick when the studio is too afraid to say the word ass on TV. They're not afraid to show one, but they won't let you say it because of stockholders or because we were changing from one channel to the next. So it was a thankless job. And here I come in just sort of wrecking someone's dream, you know. It's not 100% on me, but it's not something that I'm proud of. The way I presented it to her, I should have asked more questions. I think it was reasonable for me to assume that that championship meant a lot more to her than just a part of a storyline. I think if that was her expectation, I think that's reasonable. But yeah, man, I screwed up. I screwed up, and I didn't like that feeling, man. It was tough working with the girls because I can count on one hand how many dudes cried in front of me. The women there were much more emotional because their opportunities were far, far less. So if they got anything they liked, they had to hit a home run. Imagine getting one at-bat a season, and if you don't hit a home run, you won't play again, ever. That was the position these women were in. It was crazy to me. So I cared a lot. Michelle and I weren't really the same after that. So there wasn't, I don't even remember if an apology happened I'm saying on my end. She doesn't owe me an apology, but yeah, things were different. Things were for sure different after that. And then I left the company for a little while, and they brought, I think, another Hollywood writer who created the Lay Cool, which was Layla and Michelle McCool as kind of a team, even though Michelle was the champion. And then they sort of had a promise that she would drop the title to Layla when she was done with the business. And when I came back my second time, as that guy was leaving, I wasn't a fan of the Lay Cool thing. I'm not trying to trash it. I just didn't think that was the right direction for women in their 30s to be acting like that. It just didn't click to me. I know they were looking to get like teenage girls, and that's important, but that was the wrong time to pursue the role model female wrestler when you're calling them divas. It just wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right time. It wasn't until I think the Bellas kind of blew up the women's division, at least in WWE. It's not to say there wasn't women killing it all over the world in other promotions, but the biggest promotion, I didn't say best, I said biggest promotion, where you had the biggest opportunity and the most eyeballs on you, was the WWE. And when the Bellas came in there with that reality show, it genuinely changed the business. And it's so strange when you find these people that got middled, right? Like a throwing quarterback in a running quarterbacks league. If they would have only been born 10 years ago, or with the rules quarterbacks have, if Dan Marino was drafted today, he'd have all the records. If Michelle McCool was coming up now and the same age as Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, knowing what she knows, knowing what she's learned from some of the best wrestlers in the business, her relationship with Fit Finlay was always top shelf. He had her back so much. He was the one that got her the heel hook and got permission for her to use it, only to have it taken away again. So stupid. I wonder where she would be as far as top girls, right? Top guys and top girls. She was underserved when I worked there. She wasn't taken care of the way you should take care of a champion. And that part is partially on me to blame. But the company didn't appreciate women the way they do now. And it isn't because the women are so much better. They had some legit straight up athlete gangsters on the roster. Eve Torres Gracie can do moonsaults and then some. They just don't allow her to do it. She got to do it a couple times, but they had some monsters on there that could work. They just weren't allowed to work. And it was, you hear frustration in my voice. Imagine being one of them. Imagine not commentating on it. Imagine trying to live that. A lot of you probably can. Male or female. A lot of you can relate to being in a job where, damn, you're contributing. Your work is valuable and you're just not even looked at. Just not even looked at. And had she not been married to Undertaker, what happens then? What happens if Undertaker isn't in the picture and says, yo, man, you got to dead this. My girl worked too hard to have you, take it away like this. And Vince go, nah, yeah, you're right. I fucked up. Sorry. Which is probably all that happened, right? It's just, it was a tough situation all the way around that shouldn't have happened. She wasn't appreciated. And I guess, the other way is, hey, that's show business, right? There's plenty of actors and musicians that were born in the wrong generation and not appreciated until, after their active contributions were gone. But watch some of her stuff, man. She does some UFC moves in there. Go on YouTube and deep dive. I know she's not a household name, but it's an important part of WWE history because she was a champion. It's certainly an important part of my short time there, and I should have shared this story sooner. I think I just blocked it out. And she held the line for a couple good years there before the Bellas were able to do what they did. And I promise you, not me, not Vince, not Fit, not Freebird, not anyone in the WWE was ready or prepared or could predict what the Bellas were going to do with that business. I want to thank you guys very much for listening. Thanks for letting me confess to you. Is this a mea culpa? Is that what you call it? If I haven't apologized to Michelle and she hears this, I owe you an apology, girl. And if you say, oh, no, you don't, it's all good. We were all just doing it. That's nice of you, but I still do. Other than that, I hope all you guys are doing well. I look forward to recording these for y'all every single week. I ain't going anywhere. And I'll see y'all soon on another episode of Wrestling with Freddie right here. Peace. This has been a production of iHeart's My Cultura podcast network. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.